go to the coffees.
This is Bracken Bat Cave, the largest colony of bats in the world. And it'll look like some are coming out and some are going back in. That first lap out only comes out halfway, and then they halfway in and halfway out. The next lap out takes them out into the bowl. They're spread. This is a migratory species that migrated from Mexico to here in March. This is a maternity colony, so these are all mommy bats that are in the cave right now. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 million bats before they have their babies. This particular species has one baby bat, which is a year, which is called a pup. And at this point, in the order Chiroptera. So when you look at the wing on a bat and compare it to your hand, Chiroptera means hand wing. So their wing looks just like your hand. There's a thumb claw up on top, real long fingers with thin skin between them. They're the only true flying mammal. This particular species is migratory. They've migrated from Mexico to Central Texas. They come here to have their babies and raise them during the summer months here in Texas. And sometime in November, they'll migrate back to Mexico, where it's going to be warmer once the winter rolls in here. This would be prime feeding ground for those young. And what's going to end up happening is young bats will get tired. They're going to roost up in somebody's porch or get caught up in their swimming pool. Bats use swimming pools for supplementary sources of water. They can't get enough moisture from the food that they eat. They will fly over swimming pools or ponds or still bodies of water because they have to fly over the top of it, stick their tongue out, and lap the water up as they go by. So, when you have one roost that'll hold 10 million bats, there's no other place in this area that large to handle that many bats. So when they move back into this area, when they migrate back into this area, if this cave wasn't habitable, then they're going to try to find a home somewhere else.
Annalisa Peace, who's been very active around this issue, because all of these issues are connected, and it is an issue of the bats and the ecology of the area, but part of that is also that we're over the Edwards Aquifer recharge zone right now, and this is a huge development being proposed over the recharge zone. So Annalisa is going to talk to us a little bit about what issues affect the aquifer.
When there is going to be a really large development over the recharge zone, we go down there to protest. We really don't want SAWS to provide water and sewer service to these large developments on the recharge zone because it doesn't make any sense. It's going to eventually compromise our water supplies. This one in particular really doesn't make any sense because the entire development is in Comal County. So we as SAWS ratepayers, and I assume everybody here is probably a SAWS ratepayer, we will be asked to pay for additional water supplies because it's on the Edwards Aquifer recharge zone. They have the state requirements for camera testing of the sewer lines, which is $37,000 a mile. This is 10 miles of sewer line additional. Plus, SAWS is going to pay to oversize the mains out here to the Crescent Hills development, 10 miles of sewer mains, because they're assuming that other new developments, which will also be on the recharge zone in Comal County, will tie off to this. So we as San Antonians will not collect any property taxes, no sales taxes. We won't benefit at all, but we're being asked to pay to subsidize this development, which will eventually compromise our water supplies. We're very, very concerned because they're, like the Edwards Aquifer Authority typically does the tests, there are things called emerging contaminants They're contaminants that are only found in the wastewater stream, like unmetabolized drugs and personal care products like shampoos and soaps and things like that. They're regularly getting hits of those in Waco and Comal Springs. So we know that the wastewater stream is contaminating our water supply. So do we want an extra 10 miles of sewer lines that will be laid up the stream beds? And that's what SAWS does. They go right up the middle of stream beds. Now, the waterways within the recharge zone recharge 75 to 80%. So if you have a leak in these lines, it's going straight into the aquifer with no filtration. So the whole thing is just sheer folly, and the only conclusion that we can come to is that SAWS is more interested in serving developers and enabling them to make money than they are in our welfare. And so we will be going to the SAWS board meeting. Now, y'all have read in the paper probably, or you've seen the SAWS keep saying, we have to serve this area because the state says we have to serve it. Now, the only reason the state says that they have to serve it is because SAWS applied for a permit to be the sole service provider in that area. We're asking SAWS board to amend that permit, and we're also asking them to rescind the contracts that they gave for water and sewer service to this Crescent Hills development.
So this ends up being a very difficult political issue. It's big toes that the bats and the water are, again, some of the biggest toes in our state. And Amy is right. Our city council has a lot to do with it. If we had some leadership there, we could stop this. And people can be very creative in figuring out exactly how to do it. It can be done. But one thing that does not exist, and that's why we have to fill that vacuum, is that there is no place, like Fran was saying, where these issues are debated. We have to be creative in how we respond to it. Number one, being informed, and number two, acting together. I think just the group, when we come together as diverse communities, the people who work with the water, the experts on water, the experts on the bats, people who are concerned, interested and have information on development, and grassroots activists. In the past, where we have been able to win these big battles is when we have been together. So all of you who came here tonight, thank you so very much. And thank the BCI for hosting us.
This is why they have to provide the service. They asked for that. So we're asking them to amend that permit so that they are not the sole service provider out here over the recharge zone in Comal County.
What can we do as individuals?
Call city council and call the SAWS board members.
Yeah.